Hi everybody, welcome to my latest YouTube video. Something completely different today. We're going to be talking about how to start a record collection. This is sort of a bit like a follow-up to a video I did the other week where some chap was recommending you spend thousands and thousands of pounds on a setup. And I've also been asked by people what sort of equipment do I have, how did I get started, and like how do I clean my records and things like that. So it might be a long video, so I do apologise, but I do think this is something that, as collectors, we should be sharing with people. So without ado, we'll start with the main feature. I hope you can see me. It looks a little bit dark. Let's see if it looks better if that's down there like that. There, that's a little bit better. Right, so first question is how to start a record collection. The first question is, why do you want to start collecting records? This is something that you've got to ask yourself. Have you already got some records from years and years ago that have been, up in the attic or, in a garage or something, or have you been given some records? That's one thing that you have actually got to ask yourself, and obviously you've got to say because you want to collect them or you want to start listening to records again. Right, so then the thing is, are you going to, this is one that you've got to ask yourself, but you might not be able to answer it immediately, is this going to be a hobby, i.e. something you're going to do very, very regular, or is it just going to be something you might only do every now and again? Because if it's something you're only going to do every now and again, like once every 2 or 3 months, then you're not going to need the sort of equipment that you will do if you're going to be playing records on a daily or weekly basis. Does that make sense? Then the other thing you've got to ask yourself, and you've got to be quite truthful in this one, is are you going to just buy vintage records, or are you going to buy brand new records like from HMV and things like that? Or, as in most cases, it's going to be a little mixture of both. I would say most people would be the final one, probably a little mixture of both. If I sound bunged up, by the way, I've got hay fever, so I do apologise. Then you've got to think about your budget, what you can afford to spend, and things like that. So this is the way I did it, which might not be the ideal way for you, but it could give you some tips along the way. My story is quite simple. I had a really, really nice record collection. When my first marriage ended, I got rid of the majority of my record collection, and then I got into CDs and things like that. When I got back with Sue, I was always like moaning at her, saying that, I missed not being able to play records. So one day she went out and bought me a very, very cheap record player and a couple of second-hand records, and then that's how I got back into it. Bear with 1 sec. So let's say you used to collect records years ago, and you're thinking of getting back into record collecting as a hobby, but you're not quite sure how big a hobby it's going to be. What sort of record deck do you need? You could go for something like this, which is like a suitcase sort of like record player. Very popular actually, these are, and you can buy them brand new from places like HMV and other sort of like outlets. They range from £75 up to about £100 depending on the model. Nice thing about these is you haven't really got to set it up, once you sort of like get it out of the box, you can play it. It's got built-in speakers, and I think this one is Bluetooth as well. I paid £35 for this off a work colleague, to be honest, brand new. I've used it twice. I've only used it twice. If you're going to be collecting really, really old records, you've got, a nice collection of Small Faces, original UK pressings or something, I wouldn't recommend you use this. This is more for like the casual sort of listen, or somebody that's not sure if record collecting is going to become a serious hobby or not. They are okay, don't get me wrong, I'm not slagging them off, they are what they are. If you just want to buy a cheap little record player and buy some second-hand records from a charity shop, this is ideal for you. What I did, the record player Sue got me was very, very similar to that, but it was very small. It did have built-in speakers. I had it for a couple of months, started to buy a few more records, so then I thought, yeah, I want something a little bit better. So then I went for something like this. He says, that's all tangled up. This is a GPO record deck. It's slightly similar to that one we've just looked at, but this is a little bit better quality. Belt drive, that's belt drive. This has got built-in speakers. You can actually run this through an amp as well. So you can run it on its own, or you can run it through an amp. These usually cost, well, the first one I bought was second hand and I paid, I think it was £35 for it, and then I bought a brand new one, but I got it at a bargain price, which is this one here. Lovely sounding little record player. Very, very easy to maintain. You can buy the styluses for them for next to nothing, and you basically just slip it out and slip it back in. So it is a very, very basic record player. The only thing wrong with that is when the record comes to the end, as on that Crossley one, the tone arm just stops wherever it is, so it doesn't return. It's a manual turntable as such, both belt drives. Once I'd had that for a few months, then I decided to buy an amp, plugged it all into the amp, and then from there I built my setup up, which is over there, which now consists of a Denon amp. I've got a Philips CD player. I've got a Technics direct drive fully automatic turntable, and I've got a Sony direct drive fully automatic turntable. This is my basic system, what I've got there, and it runs through Denon amps as well. Lovely sound quality. I got to that probably between 6 months and a year after starting collecting records. I got something like that. It was slightly different because I did have a couple of I had this GPA one plugged into it at first. The Denon amp I got as a stacking system, believe it or not. So it was a Denon amp, it was a tape deck, there was a radio thing with it, and there was a Denon record deck with it, but fortunately the record deck didn't work. But at the minute all I use off it is the amp and the speakers. Lovely sound. I think I paid something daft like £50 or £60 for it. It is going back a couple of years, don't get me wrong, well, probably about 5 years now, maybe more than that. It's never let me down. Like I say, the system I've got up here is my everyday system. This is used the most. Yes, I've got other decks and things like that which I can plug in and out, because I've got like a mixing thing on there as well. Don't really need it. It was just more convenient for me to set it up like that. Downstairs I've got a Technics system, a really, really nice Technics system. The Technics deck that's up here was originally on that system, but I also bought a Project record deck, which is a belt drive and complete manual, and I've plugged that into the one downstairs because I don't use that one that much now. That is the only deck I've ever bought brand new, by the way, the Project one, and I think that was about £175. Again, it's one it's already set up. You take it out of the box and you just plug it straight into amp. It's each their own. Your deck is going to depend on your circumstances and your budget when you start collecting records. Out of the two that I've shown you so far, I would probably recommend this one as a startup one over the suitcase one. It is a slightly better quality. Sooner or later you will upgrade anyway, and if you don't upgrade, these GPA ones, same with the suitcase ones, you can buy them second hand off selling sites and things like that, Facebook Marketplace and things like that. If you are thinking of getting a second hand one, the advice I would give to you is contact the seller. Say you're new to record collecting, or you're getting back into record collecting. Ask him if it's a belt drive or automatic. If they can't even ask you that, I'd be, if they can't answer that, they don't know. I mean, if they say they don't know, that's fair enough, sort of thing. But because if it's a belt drive, you're going to want to know if the belt is okay. You can still buy belts for most of these. Dennis gave me an old Panasonic Lear one the other day. Dennis is my neighbour, by the way. When he gave it me, it didn't even have a lead to it, so I've had to buy a new lead for it. And I've bought a new belt and I bought a new stylus for it. I could get them all pretty cheap. The belt was something like £6 and the stylus was something like £9 or £10. That sounds okay, but that's, you know, going off the topic a little bit. So you've got a basic deck, and like I say, if you're just going to be playing second-hand records, you know, once a month or something, that will do you. To be honest, that will do you. If you start to get a bit more serious, then sooner or later you're going to upgrade your deck, aren't you? So the next proper deck I got was the Sony, which is a really, really old deck from the late 70s. The good thing about that is it's got an interchangeable head shell, so you just unscrew it and you can put different head shells and cartridge and stuff in it. Like I say, it's fully automatic, direct drive. I've had that one for the best part of 10 years now. Sorry, 9 years. And that is actually my everyday playing deck. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it? So that one there, that is my Sony deck. Again, didn't pay a lot for it. I think I paid about £50. I bought that after I'd bought the amp. So obviously, you know, lovely sounding record deck, lovely sounding amp. Now, to get to something like that, I wouldn't recommend you do it overnight. Excuse me while I just have a sip of coffee. My biggest advice to anybody starting collecting records is take your time. You can make a hell of a lot of mistakes. The video I watched the other day, which has got some nice comments on it actually, was about a chap who was recommending you don't buy a deck for under £2,500 and then go for top quality gear, you know, top quality hi-fi, which to me, recommending somebody just starting out or getting back into vinyl is wrong. Because for a start, you don't know. If you haven't played records for a long time, or you're completely new to collecting records or playing records, you don't actually know if you're going to like it or not, do you? And even if you had records in the 70s or 80s, you know, you still don't know if you're going to enjoy it as much as what you think you are. 99.9% of you will, but you know, if you've gone out and spent a couple of grand on a hi-fi setup and you've gone straight to HMV and bought, you know, 10 or 15 albums at £25 a time, and then you decide it's not for you, you've wasted a hell of a lot of money, haven't you? Do it cheap. My advice would be to start with a second-hand deck, or go to somewhere like HMV, because you can buy some decks very similar to that have got separate speakers, and then you can still plug them into an amp if you wanted to. They range usually around the £100 to £120 mark. They're okay. You can upgrade the needles and stuff on them. They are very, very basic. But if you wanted to go for something like that, if brand new, you know you've got a warranty and things like that on it, so that's another option that's open to you. Records, what sort of records are you going to collect? In my case, as you all know, I love the Beatles, and I always wanted to get, you know, back into my Beatles records. I didn't go and buy many brand new ones to start off with. I mainly bought things off Car Boots. Lucky we've got a second-hand record shop in Derby, bought some off him. It wasn't just Beatles, I bought, you know, Madness and things like that as well. Anything that I liked, listened to, or can remember listening to as a kid, basically, is what I bought. Don't be fooled and think you've got to buy everything brand new. You haven't. Sometimes when you get into record collecting, there's records that you might want that to get an original copy is like hundreds of pounds. So yeah, fair enough, go out and buy a brand new version of it. Do records sound any better than CDs? Personally, I think they do. Some people say CDs sound better than records, but the thing with a record is, let me demonstrate. You own this, don't you? You own this record. You know, you've got it in your hands. You can you can feel it, you can play it, you can look at the album cover. I mean, this probably isn't the best album cover to demonstrate this, but some album covers, for instance, Sergeant Pepper, you can look at that album cover on its own for hours and hours and hours, and you'll always see something slightly different in it. You don't quite get that with a CD, and you certainly don't get that with streaming. So whether you buy, excuse me for turning around like that, whether you buy new records or old records or vintage records is entirely down to you. Again, it might be down to your budget. You know, a lot of people ain't got 25 or 30 pounds to go out and buy one record, have they? But they might have 20 pounds to go out and buy a few second-hand records. Yeah. The biggest mistake a lot of people that get back into record collecting do is they don't buy any accessories. Now you might think, well, I've got a record deck. I might have an amp and some speakers, or you might just have the record deck that's got the built-in speakers, and you've got some records. So what else do you need? What else do you need? What else do you think you need? First off, you're going to need this. If someone that's like only got a small collection, just get back into it, you're going to need a carbon fibre cleaning brush. So they're like that, that's how they come, and you go like that, and then every time you put your record on, you just clean it like that, and it does get a lot of the surface dirt out of your record. Once you get, if you're just going to play records every now and again, this will do you fine, as long as they're not really ditched. So if you're buying second-hand records, try and get the cleanest copies that you can. So that, you usually pick them up anywhere between £5 and £15 depending on what the make is. You can actually get this. This is for cleaning your needle, believe it or not. And what you do, you undo it, and it's just like a sponge, and you put your needle on it very gently. And if you've got any dirt on your stylus, it gets it out. All right. You can also use blue tack for that, by the way, but be very gentle. Just put a little toddy bit, roll it up into a ball, and gently put it onto your stylus. Now, if you do that and it knackers your stylus up, that's your own fault. But an old DJ told me that. Then you can also get something like this for cleaning your stylus, which is actually like, it's a solution, and it's just say stylus clean on it, look. And you take it out, and it looks like something that your missus had used to do her eyelashes with. Again, you've got to put it like that and very gently just rotate it. You know, once you get into it, you'll know more about what to get and what not to get. What else we've got in here? So in here, that is an interchangeable head shell. See what I mean? So if you go for a record player that's got an interchangeable head shell, which is like this, so basically that just goes, and it just, you get a thing on the end of your tone arm, and just like goes like that, and it goes in. Then you can change your head and your stylus at the same time. They're about £20 or £30 complete, they are, and they do usually have decent cartridges in them and styluses. You can upgrade, you know, again, it depends what your budget is. But if you're upgrading from, say, the GPO to something, I would look for something that has got an interchangeable head shell on it. Again, that's just my personal preference. A lot of the record decks that are out today that you buy brand new won't have an interchangeable record shell. What else we've got? Then you've got things like that, spare styluses. That's what they look like. Then there's something, if you've got collecting or buying second-hand records, sometimes you'll come across a record and you won't know it till you play it, it's actually warped. Now, as long as the warp's not like that, these can sometimes help. This is a record weight or a record clamp. You can pick them up. Again, certain selling sites, these go for £50 or £60. I think I paid £7 for this. They are quite heavy, so if you've got a really cheap record player, like that suitcase one, if you put that on top of your record, it will slow your record down or slow your mechanism down. The idea is that it'll go flat like that onto the record, and then that helps distribute the weight. Like I say, if it's a really, really big warp, it won't do it. If it's a slight warp, it will. Handy to have, a bit controversial because some people say it doesn't really help it. The ones I've had, it has actually helped it. Again, that's just in my opinion. Cleaning your records, folks. That's the biggest mistake a lot of people new to record collecting forget about, is cleaning records. Especially if they go out and buy brand new records, they think, well, they're brand new, they don't need cleaning. Sooner or later, you will have to clean records. You might start off with something like this. Vinyl Clean and Protect. You buy this, it's already made up. You spray it onto your record. Get a fibre cloth, just wipe it. If you've only got a few records and you've still got a fairly cheap record player, that'll do you. It's a way of cleaning. I know people that still wash their records in the sink, in the kitchen sink I'm on about. They will they'll make up a little solution, a little bit of washing up liquid in a little bowl with some lukewarm water. Then they'll go like that round the record. Don't put anything on the record sleeve. Then they'll switch the tap on, the cold tap, and go like that. If that works for you, it works. I have done it in the past. I wouldn't recommend it because 9 times out of 10 you're going to damage your record label. It does clean them, don't get me wrong, it does clean them, but then if you don't get all of the washing up liquid out, you're not going to get a very nice sound out of your record. Or as soon as you put your stylus on, your stylus will be all blocked up, and then you've got to clean your stylus as well. One of the easiest ways of cleaning records, and most inexpensive ways, to buy something like this, a disco anti-static. Again, you can get these off certain sites. I think you could still buy these in HMVs and places like that, up until a few months ago anyway. So basically it's a trough. You get 2 brushes, a brush there and a brush at the other side. You fill it up with whatever in it. Don't just use ordinary water, by the way. Always get a mixture that's already made up until you know what you're doing, then you can make your own up. So you fill it to a certain, there's like a level. Spin it so many times one way, spin it so many times the other way. Then you put it on a rack like that and leave it to dry. Now these do work. Over the years I've cleaned hundreds of records with something like this. The only downside is, if you've got 10 records to clean, say, and one of them is really, really crappy and has got a lot of muck on it, clean that one last. Because if you clean that first, then all you'll be doing is transferring the muck off that onto the ones. You've got to keep an eye on the water. You really have got to keep an eye on the water and how mucky it goes. If it starts to go mucky, chuck it out and refill your thing straight away. Clean it with water or hot water first though. The other downside is these can take hours and hours and hours to dry on these racks. Having said that, I still think this is a cheap way of cleaning records, and obviously if you're doing something like this, it's better than doing something like that and just wiping it off with a fibre brush. Some people do that. Some people will. That's all they do to clean the records. Even these top record collectors, that is all they'll do. Spray a little bit onto the record and wipe it off. Once you get going, you'll decide a way that you are going to clean records. The other tip I'll give you is buy some anti-static sleeves. Because even if you're buying brand new records or second-hand records, get some decent anti-static sleeves, which you can buy fairly cheaply. Don't bother to go into all the trouble of cleaning a record and then putting it back into a sleeve. The sleeve might look clean to you, but if it's a second-hand record, there could be anything in that, and within a few days you're going to have to clean it again. Some people say brand new records, you should clean them before you play them. Again, depending on who you listen to on certain YouTube channels and certain forums, some people say, yeah, do it because there's some sort of residue on them that they do to get them off the pressing plants. I never used to bother. In all honesty, I never used to bother. If I bought a brand new record, I never used to clean it. Until one day I took one out and I noticed there was a lot of paper on it, like paper marks on it. I cleaned it, and now I do clean. If I go out and buy a brand new record, I will clean it before I play it. Again, that is my preference. You will work out your own systems of doing things. So, you've been collecting records for, say, a year now. So you've got something like that. You know, it might have 2 decks, but you've got a deck running through an amp and some speakers. You've probably got a CD player, and you've probably got a nice cartridge and head shell. And you probably bought some nice records. So then you go, in my case, I moved up from that and invested, and I will say invested, because at the time it was quite a lot of money, into one of these bad boys. This is a Project record cleaning machine. Very, very simple to use. You basically take that off, put your record on there, put the clamp on so that protects your label. There's a thing on there, so it's got a vacuum. So what I do, I'll put it on, I'll vacuum it first so that gets rid of any loose dust, right? Then you spray your solution on it. Again, I always use something like this that you can buy made up. You leave it, no, tell a lie, then you get your brush, it's turning around, it's like a, basically it's like a turntable without an arm, and it goes very slow. So you clean it one way, then you clean it another way, then you leave it for 30 seconds, they say, right, and then you put the vacuum on and it sucks up all the dirt, water, everything. Do the same on the next side, and within 2 minutes you can play them. Again, it depends how serious you are going to be a record collector. If you just, like I said, if you're only going to be playing records once or twice a month, or you know, something like that, you probably won't need anything like that. If you're starting to get into your vinyl in a big way, and you're investing in classic albums and original pressings and things like that, then eventually you're going to need something like that. Not necessarily that model. You know, I'm not endorsed by anybody that I've shown products from. I'm just telling you, this is the way I got into it and the way I do it now. You can get ultrasonic ones, which again have got mixed reviews, because basically that is just water being bashing against your record. They are supposed to make them sound okay. I'm quite happy with that one. It does keep the labels dry and everything. The only thing I don't like about that one, and I don't know if it's still the same, is with this thing here, you can only do LPs. If you want to do singles, you have to go out and buy another one, which the hole is like only halfway across, because it's like, this is what sucks up all of your dirt and everything. And for one of them on their own to do singles, you're paying for nearly half the price of what I paid for that. That was something like £200 when I bought it. I think they're up to 3 now. If you want to buy an adapter to do singles, these are about £120, £130 each. At the moment I haven't got one. Whether I'll ever get one, I don't know. What I was doing was putting a bit of cardboard over that, about halfway along, and then wrapping an elastic band around it, right? And then I did it that way, and it worked. You'll learn all these things. You'll, like I say, these are only like the way I do it. If you get one of them, you might do it slightly different. But if you are, hopefully, you buy a record deck within a year, you've got a nice system, you've got a nice setup, you started to get a nice collection of records. Yes, you're still mixing old records with new records. If you're going into things like Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and Queen, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones and stuff like that, and you're starting to collect the original records, then I would highly recommend that you buy a proper cleaning machine. These are all right. for when you first start. Like I say, if you're only going to be playing records once in a blue moon, that and a micro cloth fuss, or whatever they're called, micro cloth, will do. But you're never going to get the dirt out of the grooves, where that one does. The drawback with that is the water goes dirty very, very quickly and they take hours to dry. Your project, it's virtually instant. I say it's virtually instant. It takes me about 2 hours to do 30 records, but I can play all them records straight away, if that makes sense. And that's about it. So I've shown you how I started. I've recommended a couple of cheap decks. I've recommended a couple of second-hand decks, second-hand amps. If you want to go out and buy brand new hi-fi equipment, by all means do it. If you're a little bit unsure, and you want to buy something brand new in case it breaks, I'll go somewhere like HMV. They've got very, very similar ones to that GPA one here, with extended speakers and things like that, and you will get a warranty with it. You won't be paying a hell of a lot of money for them. Like I say, probably between £100 and £150. But remember, they are not top quality items. So if you sort of like started collecting records and you're gonna enjoy this as a hobby, yeah, go for one of them. But I would still save up your money and eventually go for a decent vintage deck. Again, if you're buying a vintage deck, this is what I've done with everything I bought second hand. I've always got in touch with the people that I'm buying it off. Does it work okay? Is there anything needs doing to it? Does it need a stylist? If it's belt drive, does it need a belt? Or when did you last change the belt? My Technics system, when I got that, the chap lived quite far away from me, and at the time my my car was playing up. I was having trouble with my car or something, I can't remember. And he says, well, I'll come and deliver it for you, which he did. So he set it all up for me and everything, and he showed me. Never ever had any trouble whatsoever, that Technics set up. And it wasn't a lot, it was about 300, maybe £350. But that was for everything. So you got the Technics deck, you got a graphic equalizer, you got a CD player, you got the radio, built-in amp, some lovely massive speakers. I bought it with the intention of having it in the music room, to be honest, but because I'd already started to do this, and I thought, well, that won't look like downstairs, so hence why that's always been downstairs. The only difference now is it's got the Project record deck running through it, and the Technics one is up here, which makes sense because these are used the most. I mean, this is the place I play records the most, is in the music room. We do play them downstairs occasionally, not very often, because basically, the music room is for relaxing and watching telly and things like that. The other thing is you're going to need some sort of storage. All these cabinets here, these cost roughly, I think it was £60 each, these. I've got quite a few of them now, but each one is made up of 3 cubes, and each cube you roughly can hold 100 records, depending on whether they're singles, doubles, triples or whatever. So there's that, or you can get the old style like record case things. Don't ever always store records upright like that, never like that, which it sounds stupid, don't it? Because you think, well, if they're that way they can't warp. They warp more that way than if they're stood upright. So that's going to be it. I think I've covered everything, but like I say, a lot of it will depend on you yourself. Like I say, you've got to ask yourself a few questions. Are you sure this hobby's right for you? That's the main question you've got to ask yourself before you even buy anything. Do you think this hobby's going to be right for you? If you're unsure, talk to some of your friends, and like if you've got a mate that's got a record player, just say one night, well, one night can I come round, we'll have a few beers and just listen to some records. Then you'll know instantly whether this hobby is for you or not. Well, if you've already got some records, like I say, you know, they've been in your loft or in your basement or whatever, get a few of them out, and then if you know someone that's got a record deck, just say, oh, can I just try some of these records? I mean, if they've got a really expensive record deck and your records are a bit grotty, shall we say, they might say no. You know, but asking somebody for advice is never a bad thing. Even if they say no, they might say, well, no, but I can clean you one and then we'll do. You know, that's what I'd say. If somebody brought me a record van and said, oh, can I listen to this, Dave, and it was really, really, you know, mucky, I'd say, well, I'll clean it first and then, yeah. Although, because I've got that, you know, I've got quite a few decks now, I'd probably say, well, yeah, we won't play it on one of them, we'll play it on this one first, just see what it sounds like. Which is what I do. If I've been to a car boot or a record fair, I always try them on this first, just to see what they sound like. Because if it's got really, really bad scratches on it, or it's really, really badly warped, then I won't bother cleaning it. It just goes in a pile, which one day I'll decide what I'm going to do with. Another thing is your budget. Don't go mad straight away. Take your time, basically. Build your collection and your hi-fi system up bit by bit. Like I say, the way I've done it is I just buy things when I can afford to buy them. I've upgraded very, very slowly. Like I say, the system I've got now and the records I've got now look a lot, but it has took since 2015 I started getting back into collecting records. And at first it was, I just like used to play them every now and again. And we'd go to the local record shop and on a payday, and we'd buy a few records, have a few beers, have some fish and chips or something to eat, come back and play the records. And that was it. It can get out of hand, you know. It can be as cheap or as expensive as you want to make it. If you take it gradually, and when I say gradually, you know, don't think, oh yeah, I bought a Led Zeppelin reissue LP, I'm going to go out now and spend £300 or £400 on a hi-fi system straight away. I wouldn't recommend you did that. Whether you listen to that advice is entirely up to you. I would still look for decent second-hand vintage equipment. A couple of reasons. One, because there's made to last. Two, you can usually pick them up fairly cheaply. If anything goes wrong with them, most of the time you can fix them yourself, because all it'll be is an amp. You know, they do still have, like, a lot of them do still have like the little glass amps and things in them. But there again, if you're going down that route, build up a bit of respect and rapport, is that the right word, with the person that you're thinking of buying it off, whether it's on an internet site or somebody in a second-hand shop. If it's in a second-hand shop, you know, like cash converters or something like that, you've got the perfect opportunity there to ask them to demonstrate it to you. Now, they might have a record, right? They might have a record, so, you know, but they should be able to plug it in, and if it lights up, it lights up. You know, if it's a record deck, you should be able to see if it's going man and things like that. Never be afraid to ask. You know, you will be surprised. I did have a good collection years and years ago, and like I say, you know, I had to get rid of that. And then since I've been back into record collecting, I've met some absolutely fantastic people. Since I've been doing this, I've met some fantastic people, and this is one of the easiest ways to learn, and especially if you like that, about whether you want to start a record collection or not. You know, this is probably one of the best ways. The way I've said it might not be ideal for everybody. You'll have to tweak it to your own individual requirements, basically. Like I say, it depends what your budget is, depends what you're going to collect in a lot of ways. Depends why you're going to collect them as well. You know, and things like that. So I hope this has been interesting to you. I hope it's been entertaining. Like I say, this is the way I restarted my record collection. But the biggest advice I can really say to you is, buy what you want to buy, record-wise. Don't think, oh, everybody's buying Beatles records, so I've got to buy Beatles records. Everybody's buying Led Zeppelin. So you buy what you want to buy, and you'll pay what you want to pay for it. You know, there's certain selling sites, if they've got a record by the Beatles, they automatically think if it's an album, it's £150 album. It's not. You will get to learn how to research things like that. There's a lot of unscrupulous people out there who will make out things are better than they're not. You'll get to know what a good record and what a bad record is as you go along. Like I say, start off with something like that GPA one if you're a bit unsure, or even the Suitcase one. They're not that expensive. You'll know within a month whether it's for you or not. If you think it is going to be for you, save up, you know, buy a better deck. Okay, you might have to buy an amp and things like that, and speakers, but just do it gradually. Take your time and enjoy it as you're doing it. I hope that's cleared a few things up. This is actually the reason I did this video was because people had asked me about how I clean records, what cleaning solution I use, what my decks are, how I got into record collecting, what I collect. So I hope this has like answered all of them in one video. So how to start record collection. I hope this has helped you all out. And if you are starting a record collection, please let me know if this has been of help to you. Or if you're thinking of starting a record collection, let me know in the comments. I've got nothing against people going out and buying high-end hi-fi equipment. The only thing I'll say is that is for probably a few years down the line. It's not something I'd recommend you do if you're just getting back into it straight away. So until the next time, it's Beatle Dave, wishing you all happiness. Remember, you are the beat of Beatle Dave. Just a quick one, by the way. If you've watched this and you've liked it and you're not subscribed, just think about subscribing. I don't like keep asking people, but you know, my channel is growing, but we could do with a few more subscribers. But my subscribers are some of the best out there in YouTube land. Tell that now. I've got some absolutely wonderful subscribers, and it would be nice if you joined our little community. Yeah, I think I've said that right, haven't I? If you've liked it and you're not subscribed, subscribe. Also, if you want to leave me a comment, leave me a comment. If you want to leave me a like, leave me a like. Because of my work pattern, I might not, if you leave me a comment, I might not be able to get back to you straight away. But if I see it on my phone, I'll always leave you a thumbs up or a heart. But sometimes I have to wait till I've got a weekend off or a day off or something like that to then answer you. Hopefully now I've got a better laptop, I can keep an eye on it a bit more, because on my old laptop I was getting messages from like 3 months ago, but they was coming in as there was new messages, so those people might have thought I'd completely ignored them, but I hadn't. So as always, whatever you're doing, please stay safe. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Whatever you're doing, you know, remember it's Monday, it's the start of a brand new week, folks. So you know, there's lots of records and things out there for people to find. I'm back at work as of Wednesday. This could be the last video for a while, because next week me and Susie Sue's going to Liverpool. Yeah, we are going back to Liverpool, our second home. We do try and go at least twice a year. We usually go Monday to Friday because it's slightly cheaper to stay at places. That's the reason we do that. And this is going to be like our proper honeymoon, to be honest. We did have a little honeymoon in Matlock just after we got married a couple of months ago now. But this is like our pop honeymoon. We said when we got married we wanted to go to Liverpool, but at the time we got married we couldn't afford it. So yeah, we're going to Liverpool, folks. Don't know if I'm going to be buying any records or anything. I think at the minute I've got quite a few records, and I don't think I really need any more at the minute. But having said that, I bet you end up buying some. You know it's going to happen, don't you? I'm going to walk in the record shop and go, oh, look at this. And so go, well, how many copies of that? You've got to go, yeah, but this is a pressing from so and so, and look, it's got a mark here, and that's spelt wrong. Like I say, you can make record collecting as easy or as hard as you want. I'll leave you with one thing: just make sure you enjoy it. Whatever you're doing, collecting it, enjoy it. Take your time. You know, don't rush into anything. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's a record. And you're doing it because you like music. Some people don't call themselves record collectors or vinyl collectors. They'll say they're lovers of music. I'm a record collector. I collect records, but I collect vinyl. basically call myself a record collector because that's what there was always called in the UK. You went to a record shop. You didn't go to a vinyl shop, did you? Went to a record shop. I can understand why it's called vinyl now, don't get me wrong, and things like that. So, yeah, so whatever you do, please stay safe. If you're thinking of starting or, starting a record collection, just take your time. Do a little bit of research. Don't be scared to ask people questions. So until the next time, it's Beetle Dave wishing you all peace, love and happiness, and I love you all.